Scott, it's a pleasure to finally have you on.
Yeah, wonderful to be on with you. This is great. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, it's been a while. You were nice enough to have me on your What Keeps You Up at Night quite a while back, and now you have a new book out, Senior Cyber. I was super excited to get this. I have it with me now. Um, when I got this,
Awesome.
I loved the format of it. I loved the way it laid out, and I absolutely shared it with people who are close to me. So, talk to me about why are seniors and elderly often targeted by cyber criminals and scammers? What can they do to stay safe? Obviously read your book, but what
Yeah,
else?
sure. There's a couple reasons why they're often targeted. And probably first and foremost is because as somebody gets a little bit older, they tend to be a little bit more trusting, a little bit more innocent for somebody that's senior. They may have also some more time on their hands and they'll take the time to listen to a conversation. If they get a phone call, they get an email, they'll be intrigued and they get drawn in. And oftentimes they'll be fooled. And unfortunately, scammers and hackers know this. They know somewhat how seniors think and they'll prey upon them and take advantage of them, unfortunately, for this. And two, oftentimes when somebody's senior, they have a nest egg. They've got a little bit more money than maybe the average person that's working. They've worked hard, saved all their life. So it's a bigger pot that the scammers and the hackers can then try to steal from them and fool them and swindle them out of their hard earned money.
So talk to me about remote work. With all of us working at home through the pandemic and millions switching to that remote model, how has cyber become more important just to everybody?
Many people are working remotely. Unfortunately, when we work remotely, and we're all guilty of this, we kind of let our guard down and we're not implementing best practices. And that's where a big concern, I think, comes into play. People are logging into the computer networks at the office, and maybe they're not using multi factor or two factor authentication, which we all know is very important, and we often recommend that if they're not using secure, long, strong passwords, if they're not keeping them stored in a password manager, but instead they're writing them down on sticky notes. Another big problem with remote workforce and we're just working remotely in general is people use their home Wi-Fi network. And again, if they don't take the precautions to properly secure it and make sure that it's encrypted and that the communications are truly private, it can open up Pandora's box to hackers. And then one other final point to keep in mind is when you're using your computer at home, maybe it's your laptop or your desktop, do you have proper software on there, virus and malware protection, and you keep it updated regularly to keep out all those unwanted viruses and different strains of malware, especially ransomware, that are being targeted toward people's computers, especially through these effective phishing emails that many people are falling for. So, for so many reasons more, it's got to be really thought security from day one when we're working remotely. And unfortunately, not a lot of people thought it out. They quickly pivoted over to the work from home model. It works, but they left the security part out. Now, many people are paying for it, unfortunately.
If you don't have the advantage of an IT team or a great big team behind you, a lot of people think that, at home you need to be really technically savvy or spend a lot of money to improve your security. What can you do if you don't have those resources or that skill set to, make sure that you are secure and that you are protected at home?
Yeah, great question. A lot of times it's just doing the fundamentals, the basics. Uh, we tend to be creatures of habit. We tend to be lazy, unfortunately, just human nature, I guess. But when you are setting up something as simple as we talked about a Wi Fi network, do we actually set it up and deliberately set it up with a long and strong password? That's important, that it's secure. And in addition to that, set up with a guest network. So, in other words, your friend, Bob Smith comes over to visit at some point and says, "Hey, can I borrow your password to get on your Wi-Fi?" Many people unfortunately give out their secure password. Now that remains on that person's device. And anytime they come within proximity of your home, it's going to naturally automatically associate to your Wi Fi network. Well, what happens if Bob Smith's smartphone had malware on it and now he's associated to your Wi-Fi network? So again, backing up from it and setting up the proper security and provisions so you can have a special guest network only, you can have a direct login with a strong password for yourself or only trusted devices. It's really important. And again, it takes time. These things take a little bit of time up front to manage, but once you do it properly, it allows you to stay secure. And to your point, which is brilliant, Stephanie, you don't have to spend a lot of money. You can even go online and do a couple quick searches. And I share a lot of tips even on my website, scottschober.com. Some basic things that you need to implement to keep your home office safe, to stay safe at the actual office as well as your home office. Basic things. And a lot of it's even shared tips throughout the 3 books that I've written. So they're practical things that you can do. There are some costs involved. We talked about malware and virus software. Having some good software on your computer, that'll probably stop 15 to 20% of the attacks that do come in. But what does that tell you? The other 80%, you have to find ways to stop. It's either by not clicking on them, having some good email filtering at the server, and using common sense to be able to identify a phishing attack, not clicking on a pop up ad that comes on your screen or visiting crazy websites and giving away personal information. So, using those best practices and common sense tips go a long way just to keep you safe in the home office.
Based on your book and based on your experience, how would you talk to a senior about social engineering scams?
Well, I think the fundamental part is it's hard to change a person if they are trusting and they want to talk to somebody and they're lonely. To your point, you don't want to take that away from them because those are good qualities that somebody wants to be conversational and have friends and socialize. The difference is helping them see clearly they should never ever divulge important information. So helping them kind of compartmentalize and say, this is private information here. Your social security number, very important, right? You don't want to ever give away that. Anything to do with any types of taxes or IRS filing numbers, logging credentials for IRS related things. That's especially around tax time now with the extension, people focusing on that. They get a phone call and they say, hey, somebody hacked into your account. I'm with the security department or the fraud department. We want to protect your money and make sure you get your refund. We just want to confirm a few pieces of information, Mrs. Smith. You are Mrs. Smith, right? And the last 4 digits of your social security number are 1234, and you live at so and so. And that sounds very convincing. So even if somebody regurgitates some pieces of confidential information to build up trust, don't fall for it. In other words, don't give them any further information. I always encourage seniors, stop. Ask a few questions, put the onus back on the person calling you. Ask them, can I have your name again? What was your phone number in case we get disconnected? Is there an email I could reach you at so I can get back to you with some of these answers? I don't have it handy here right now. And a lot of times, what will you find when you ask for a phone number or an email address? They hang up the phone quickly. You know it's a scam right away. So, don't be put on the spot or feel pressured when there's a sense of urgency, a sense of pressure. Those typically are scams in the making. They're trying to socially engineer information out of you. And that's when you really have to encourage the senior or the elderly one to stop. And also that they should have a trusted confidant. It could be their son, their daughter, a close friend that they bounce things off of before they take it to the next step. And that will greatly reduce the chance that you fall victim to a social engineer.
Scott, it has been such a pleasure to catch up, and I'm so excited about this topic. I know we could probably go on and on, but we'll revisit this again. But for everyone else, be sure to check out Scott's book. Really, really great stuff, great tips. Make sure that you follow him, and there's a wealth of knowledge. So anyway, Scott, thank you so much for coming on and for talking to us.
Great. Hey, thanks, Stephanie, and stay safe out there.